Hello there. This evening I would like to talk to you about matters of great importance. You see, I was a school teacher for a number of years, and I saw some things that were quite startling, to say the least. These children are in trouble because we no longer live in a society where men are men. We no longer live in a society where adults respect adulthood. In fact, there's this strange phenomena where adults want to be like children. And I'm not just talking about the grown men who collect toys and play video games all day, although they are a huge part of that group. I'm talking about the grown women on social media. And hey, we can blame Hollywood and point fingers all day long, but at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our actions. And yes, it is appalling to see Beyonce or Kim Kardashian or whichever other mother out there with young kids who is bouncing and twerking and walking around half naked and shaking her stuff before the cameras just so she can still remain what they call relevant. It is appalling and it's a disgrace. And it really makes me sit back and wonder what kind of men their husbands are. You can tell a lot about the man or the husband by how much his wife respects him in public. And that isn't necessarily just a woman who berates or curses her husband or just talks to him any old kind of way. It's how she dresses. It's how she carries herself. It's how she respects the fact that her body belongs to her husband. It's not up for sale. It's not up for advertisement. And this is a huge part of the childhood we see in women. So we've got men who are playing busy. They're busy right now. They're playing video games, and they are collecting toys. And no, I don't mean big boy toys. Although that's their own niche. I'm talking about the little Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toys and wrestling figures that they had when they were little boys. And they go on YouTube and they go on Instagram and they go on these social media platforms and they show off their toys and they pretend they play make-believe as if it was still the 80s again. And let me tell you something. A long time ago, a man told me that nostalgia was dangerous. I didn't even know the man. We were in a store. I think I was looking at VHS tapes. And we got to talking about a movie. And then before he left, he said something like, "Be careful with nostalgia. It's dangerous." And I didn't understand. And then I went down the rabbit hole. And it was nothing short of the grace of God to bring me back out of it. As a Christian, I believe that one must be a nonconformist. And that was always easy for me before Christ, BC, because I adopted a lot of the attitude of punk rock and that whole rebelling against the norm, society, unconformity. And And Christianity is like that. Once you get into the nitty-gritty, into the details and the facts, it's about not conforming, in slightly different ways, of course. But so I get the fuzzy feelings, the fond memories that nostalgia brings. But if there's anything in existence, then that thing can be idolized. That thing can be made into a god. And that is, by and large, what is happening to a lot of grown men in our society. And I'm not completely against being fond of the past, especially looking at the way the future is headed, or the way the present is headed. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, and it's just not fun anymore. It's not, the greed has gone through the roof. Cameras are everywhere. Gadgets are everywhere. You just can't keep up with technology. Every other minute there's a new app, a new everything, and it's just a constant keeping up. It's keeping up, and it's really madness. It's madness. And so I get the fact that there are people who would rather live during simpler times. I understand that. But it's one thing to have something as a hobby, have something that you enjoy, and then and it's another thing to spend every waking hour, every dime, all of your energy towards reliving this. Because one thing that I had to face very honestly was the fact that it will never be the same. The simpler times, bye-bye. Say goodbye. And a lot of people don't want to do that. Whether they're men playing video games, idolizing their toys, idolizing their childhood, or women who want to be, they don't want to give up the teenage girl that they used to be, who didn't have kids. And the sad thing about that is, still going off of Hollywood, a lot of women are influenced by this, and it's a sick cycle. It's almost like the kids are in control. The fear of being a has-been, the fear of not being relevant anymore, is causing the people who maybe had their 15 minutes to now acquiesce to the foolishness of the youth. And the youth is looking towards them because they don't have what they have. They don't have the riches. They've never had 15 minutes of fame. They'll never see the fortune. And so they're looking to them, and they're seeing that they're doing the same things that they're doing. And so they're encouraged in this behavior, rather than having a motherly figure, a respectable woman to look up to learn from, to be molded by, to be shaped and guided in the right way. And so you have this cycle, and it's spilling out everywhere. Filthy talk, very inappropriate sexual innuendo, jokes, all in the commercials, all everywhere. The language, filthy. We become a culture of filth and death. And it's quite alarming to see this. It's quite alarming to see this. I don't know if I was just too young as a kid, too busy being a kid, enjoying my youth, unaided by electronics and, outside of Nintendo and Sega Genesis. But I mean, all of these gadgets that, with the click of a button, you can access pornography. With the click of a button, you can access what's happening in another country. You can hop on a live and see anything happening. I mean, it's a buffet. It's just an all-out buffet of mostly inappropriate behavior, mostly uncivilized behavior, mostly vain and narcissistic behavior. And it's terrifying. And there's nothing really to hang your hat on outside of Jesus. So I don't know what people are doing. Because these gods are empty gods. They can't see. They don't have mouths to speak and ears to hear. They don't have superior knowledge, objective truth. It's all about the moment. It's all about what can I find that will satisfy me in the moment, what will entertain me before I can get to the next video or the next picture. There's a verse in scripture. When I was a child, I behaved as a child. I reasoned as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put aside childish things. Whether you were a Christian or not in our society, up until recently, people understood this. I don't see this anymore. I don't see adults being adults. I don't see men stepping up to be men. And the youth are suffering. They don't have guidance. They don't have truth. It's all emotional and how something makes you feel, and fake peace and being nice and saying what other people want to hear. That is a recipe for destruction. And you are watching it happen before your very eyes. It's happening. Childishness. I have kids, and one of the greatest blessings I think in this life is the ability to start a family and have kids, because you go from a child to an adult, and now that you're an adult, you can look at your children and see everything about who you were in them. You see the games they play. You see the behavior and their personalities developing. There's so much wonder and so much to learn and so much just mystery in how this all happens. And unless you have kids whom you are responsible for, that you can take care of day in and day out, you may miss this in life. I mean, there are other situations, taking care of maybe someone else's kids, I don't know, but with my kids, there's a love for them that is just very alien even to me, because I never experienced it growing up, and I don't know where it came from, the love a parent has for their child. And so that causes me to be very observant. I'm already an observant, and I overanalyze and very aware. And so I'm watching them closely. And one thing that I've learned from having children, and they're only 2 and 4 at this point, there's stages and levels to this that I haven't even scratched the surface of. But even at their age, at 2 and 4, I see the same behavior that I'm seeing in grown adults this very day. Grown adults behaving just utterly self-absorbed. I mean, there are Instagram accounts, multiple women have no idea, no concern that their beauty will leave them someday, and that they will literally fall apart. They're literally going to decay and watch themselves do this. Beauty is passing. It's fleeting. It's here today and gone tomorrow. And yet every single picture that you see on their accounts is them posing and looking at themselves. It's all about them. It's frightening. It's frightening to see so many young women so self-absorbed in how they look. In their looks. And again, it trickles down. I mean, you see Hailey Bieber just completely self-absorbed with herself and her beauty. And she is a beautiful woman, but it's such a shame. It's such a shame to see it miscared for, misunderstood. They don't understand that our life is but a vapor. They don't understand how many people stood in the same place that they now stand. And no one remembers them. No one even knows who they are. Millions and millions of people of yesterday. And millions who will come and stand in that same place when you are gone and you are forgotten and the wind passes over and you are remembered no more. Childishness. Childishness. No concern for reality. No concern for what is coming for each and every one of us. That last breath. Their concern is for the here and now. Very just right now. That's how children think. That's exactly how a child behaves. Me, me, me. If I don't get that ham sandwich cut exactly the way I like it, right now, throw the world away. It's just, life is done. And everybody in it. Stop everything. If I don't get what I want right now. And I see that in them. And I look at the world around me, and rationality is out the window. It's about how you feel. It's a junk food mentality. It's a destructive mentality. So what do we do? Why am I here? Why am I making this video, why am I speaking this message? You know, my King says in the last days, the love of man will grow cold. And he also says that wickedness will abound. And that's what we see. That's exactly what we see. And it's still masked because these things that I mention, they seem harmless, right? Who cares about men want to spend their hard-earned money on toys and video games and recreating just their whole childhood experience. What's wrong with that? That's their truth. It's what makes them happy. What's it to you? What's it to me? I guess I'm just thinking about those poor young men who need role models, who need strong men to take them outside and to work on cars and to chop down trees and to mow lawns and to sit down and throw a ball while having a conversation about how to be a gentleman and what it is to be a man. I guess I'm just thinking about them. They need somebody to talk to. They need somebody to look up to. They don't need another friend who's a grown man, who is their father, sitting next to them, working countless hours together so that they can go join the next Xbox tournament. I mean, what reality are we in? Do we not see the emptiness of these things? There's nothing gained. You either build or you destroy, and unfortunately, many of us are busy tearing down as opposed to building up. And it all seems like it's a good thing. It's funny, it's cute, it's appealing, right? When you see the mother and the daughter hanging out and talking to each other like friends, using any old kind of language, drinking together, that's fine, right? That's today. That's today. The men and the women, the grown-ups, the adults of our society. They're not looking forward. They're not considering the generations to come. They're not considering the effects that their behavior is going to have on their very children. That's a child mentality. And you got to think, who would want that? Who would orchestrate this? I don't know what you believe, but the one I follow says that this world lies in the lap of the evil one, the enemy. And he's everywhere. And he's got his hands in everything. He's even in the church. He has not left a stone unturned. And he's got countless ways of subtlety and variety and ways to destroy us. And he comes as an angel of light. He's a roaring lion and a wolf, but he's dressed like a little sheep. Timid little sheep. Harmless little sheep. You see what I mean? Our King doesn't give us these references, this terminology, for us not to study them, for us not to reflect upon them and then look at the world and see that, well, it's harmless for a mother to be acting like she's 17 years old again, for a grandmother to be cursing like she's in middle school. Filthy, vulgar language coming out of the mouths of what should be respectable, wise, elderly folks. There's a phenomena here in Florida. I had never seen it before. I'm born and raised in Southern California. I got here and apparently no one's telling these old, wrinkly, saggy women that their miniskirt days are over. No one's telling them this. It's a ridiculous sight. Men and women both. No one's thinking about the kids. No one's thinking about what is coming. Do you know what's coming? It's appointed unto man once to die, and then judgment. And let me tell you this, and don't you ever forget it. When you stand there, there won't be a screen where you'll have people to support you and to affirm you with likes. You won't have social media to run to where your followers love everything you do and like everything you do. You're not going to have another human soul there standing next to you, to your right or to your left, to speak for you in your defense. Not your mother, not your father, not your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your aunts or your uncles, your dogs or your cats. Nobody will be there by your side when you face your Maker at your appointed day of judgment. You must think on these things. We must be concerned with reality. But in order to reflect on reality, we must not be distracted while we're in reality by the many forms, tools, conveniences laid out on a platter for us all. We must remember a time when decency mattered, when humility mattered, when the Word of God mattered. Or we're going right down the drain. That's a promise. We're going right down the drain. One big turd of a planet. You know, I sit sometimes and wonder, what would it be like if God removed his restraining grace? If he let us all off of our leashes? If for a moment he put a pause on his story and his redemption plan, just to show us what we really are? And the thought is unimaginable. Our enemy is a clever, clever beast. Oh, how he has so deceived the nations. He has made children of us all, self-absorbed and self-absorbed. I don't know what self-absorbed is, but if you can find it in the dictionary, I'd love for you to leave the definition for that word in the comments. I'm not sure where it came from, but I can't help to say self-absorbed, because vanity and self-absorbedness and narcissistic behavior, there has to be a word that can explain the phenomena of what we're seeing unfold and unravel in our very society today. And when half of my news feed is about Taylor Swift and what Kanye's doing in Italy and whatever filth TMZ wants to share with us, or Vogue, or Vice, or what Whoopi Goldberg had to say, or Jamie Lee Curtis had to say. Like, these people were products for us for decades. They're agreed to be products, and now we're listening to what they have to say. This is a person who sold themselves for money and fame to be a product for you, to sell you lies and death through ideas and violence and sexual immorality, wickedness. And these are the very people that our culture holds up and looks up to. This is the twistedness of our society. Because they can pretend before a camera they're worthy of our worship. They're worthy of us listening to what they have to say, to what they're advocating for. Have you considered the state of their souls? What kind of people they must be in order to live their lives blatantly lying, blatantly misguiding people, blatantly and vulgarly teaching our little boys and little girls things that will destroy them. See? You see? No. 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 Professing to be wise, they became fools. And the world is a place today where fools are listening to fools with hopes of making more fools out of the fools they already were to begin with. They ignore the very light that God put in all man for the darkness. For green paper. That have faces on them who were probably crying out from the pit of hell. That we all repent. I could go on and on. Before I get out of here, I've just got a few final thoughts. A few things that may encourage you, that may cause you to reflect a little bit more than maybe you are doing in your life. Truth is not determined by how we feel. Truth is determined by God. Those role models in Hollywood, they're there to destroy you. And make it look good while they do it. Please open your eyes. Please open your eyes. I know it just seems fun. It just seems like mindless entertainment. I know life is hard and hey, I'm not above a good movie or even playing a run through on Super Mario. I'm not above these things. I get it. Life is hard. Reality is hard, especially when you are weighing and considering these things, these very things that we've been speaking about. But they're so far from that place where you need to live by the very words that come out of their mouths. These are not the people. These are not the people. They may be great performers, but so is your enemy. He's the greatest pretender. He's the greatest actor who ever walked the face of the earth. He smiled in your face your whole life by the people he sent in to tell you lies, to destroy you, to influence the way you speak, the words you use. Your school teachers and your parents and your friends and your coworkers and your classmates. The greatest to ever do it. So don't think for 1 second that these people who are on the silver screen are not working for the very pretender they so longingly want to be. They may be great athletes, but these are works of the flesh that will soon fail them one day. Go look at an old actor. Go look at an old athlete and see that glory gone. And then hear the things that many of them have to say. And if you have any sense in your minds, you will come to the conclusion that a big majority of them are damned fools. Damned fools who lead people to hell every single day. I used to love Mike Tyson. Oh, the knockout king. I've seen a few of his videos on Instagram, and there's just, the blinders are taken off. There's too many cameras. There's too much emptiness. They need what Hollywood didn't give them. They need what the fat paychecks didn't give them. And they're stooping down and pretending like they really care. Because that's what all great pretenders do. They pretend and they fool the world, just like your enemy has fooled. Think of the expression, the whole world is in his lap. It's a piece of cake, sifting them all like wheat. And I just have to say, if you don't have true and saving faith in Jesus Christ, then you are most likely one of those individuals who are just like putty in the hands of your enemy. You probably don't even believe that he exists. Because it's silly, right? Because a man walking around in a red jumpsuit with horns and a tail and a pitchfork is silly, right? Because you've never cared about history, because your school teachers never really taught you those things, like this depiction of your enemy in a red jumpsuit looking goofy was a medieval attempt to attack the very weakness of our enemy, which is his pride. But what does the subtle beast do? Who's been around? He takes that very arsenal from man who sees through a glass dimly, from man who has very little contact or understanding of the spiritual world in which he exists. And he uses that very arsenal against us to make us believe he's not even real. It's a joke. Who could believe in that? And an enemy who has caused his opponents to believe he's not even there has won the fight. I mean, it's just a piece of cake. It's a free-for-all in our society. It's a free-for-all. And unless you have Jesus up there praying for you, unless he knows you and you know him, I just it's going to get real hairy for you. And it would behoove you not to look at all of this madness and chaos that is unfolding, this unrest, these protests, these riots, this anarchy, this outright disrespect for authority, and retreat into a video game, retreat into something that you can idolize that will never really fulfill you or help you. That's the wrong thing to do. You must reflect on the fact that you are a creature and you have a creator. And if you do not have peace, if you are not on his team, you have lost. I don't care if you're Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Oprah Winfrey, Will Smith, Mike Tyson, Denzel Washington. I don't care. Kanye West, Jay-Z. I don't care what your bank account looks like, your social status, or the house that you lay your head in. You have lost. For what shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeit his soul? You must repent and beg your Maker for eyes to see these things, for a heart to receive these things, for ears to hear these things, for his mercy to shower you, for the gift of faith to save you. For he fulfilled that perfect life that a perfect judge requires for any to escape the punishment that is due to them for a lifetime of crime, sin, and imperfection against his holy law. Jesus did that for you. And his resurrection was proof that the fines, the punishment, the consequences, wiped clean, paid for, in full, finished on that cross 2,000 years ago. That's the only hope we have in this life. Forget about instant gratification. Forget about fun, fun, fun. Forget about eating and drinking and being merry because you only live once. You only have one go around the sun. Forget all of those foolish sayings that the enemy has crept into society. He has whispered into the ears of mankind. Forget about that nonsense. We're playing with eternity here. Beloved friends, neighbors, and countrymen, lend me your ears. This is for real, and it's for keeps. Don't play with the enemy you cannot see. Don't play with him. Turn from your life of sin and self-gratification, chasing the lusts of your flesh. And run into the arms of Jesus, who says, "Come, all ye who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Peace which surpasses all peace that this world can promise you. And a place where true ownership exists. Where the things that you store up there will be yours forever and not snatched from you the moment death comes upon you. We must reflect on these things and think about the kids, the children, the generations to come, that they are mindful of these things, lest they become zombies walking around, mindless, hopeless zombies. May the saving grace and the peace of